Hi, my name is Nishka and you're watching Ignite My English. I've been solving CAT questions since the past 2 years and have worked through more than 10 previous year question papers. At this point, I've reached a level where I get maximum accuracy in CAT RCs. I've also recently started solving CLAT previous year question papers and my accuracy there is just as strong. In this video, I'll break down how I approach these questions so that you can improve your accuracy as well. Let's get started. Okay, let's start solving now. This is question number 27 to 29 from the CAT 2010 question paper. This is the passage. So, we have question number 27, 28 and 29. One tip that you should always keep in mind is to always read the questions before you jump into the passage. If we read the questions first, the first benefit that we'll get is that we'll get a basic overview of what is being discussed in the passage. Like from the questions itself, we can tell that the passage is about our flora and fauna and how tourism affects it. Like we can see environmentally destructive tourism, so that is a big hint. And then the second benefit that we get is that we know which keywords we need to focus on. So we need to focus on keywords like biotic disturbances and this keyword environmentally destructive tourism. These are some keywords that we need to be attentive on, and we might need to reread them again, but we should really focus on them because they are being asked in the passage. So now this is the passage. You guys can pause the video right now, go ahead and read it. Make sure to count the timing and how many minutes are you reading this passage, so that then we can determine if you guys are a beginner, intermediate or an advanced reader. So go ahead, pause the video and start reading. Okay, so that is our passage. If it took you 2 to 3 minutes to read the passage, then you are an advanced reader. If it took you 3 to 4.5 minutes, then you are an intermediate reader. And if it took you 4 to 5 or 6 minutes, then you are a beginner reader. And it is, now that you know where you stand, it is very important that you move up the ladder. If you are a beginner, try to go into intermediate, and if you're an intermediate reader, try to move up to an advanced reader. So that is our passage. We now know the basic idea of it. So when we start attempting our questions, the best thing we can do is to mark out the options. So let's see. Question number 27 states biotic disturbances in the context means A. Attacks from other living things, animals, etc. B. The disturbances caused by the natives on seeing the strange foreigners. C. The political disturbances causing the close down of the parks. And D. Disturbances caused by the wild animals on seeing tourists. So let's see, where is biotic disturbances mentioned? Over here. Okay, so let's start reading the line that mentions biotic disturbances. Over a year ago, the Indian Board for Wildlife expressed concerns over the looming danger and decided that the core areas of national parks and sanctuaries should be kept totally free from biotic disturbances, and the visitors be permitted to view the wildlife only from the areas marked out for the purpose. So that gives us a basic idea that biotic disturbances is basically something that disturbs the wildlife. So let's go ahead and read our options. Attacks from other living things, animals, etc. That could be the option, but it's too broad, so we'll just mark it out for now. B. The disturbances caused by the natives on seeing strange foreigners. There was no mention of locals, so we'll mark that out as well. C. The political disturbances causing the close down of the parks. No mention of politics. Mark that out. Disturbances caused by the wild animals on seeing the tourists. Yes, it was mentioned in the passage that tourism disturbs our wild animals. So that is the correct option. Let's go ahead and check. So that was question number 27th day. So that was the correct answer. Okay, let's move on to the next question number 28. By using the expression environmentally destructive tourism, the author means A. The preservation of the wild beasts, B. Destruction of the wildlife and sanctuaries, C. Destroying the attractive sources of wild animals and birds, or D. The maintenance of flora and fauna of the country. So environmentally destructive tourism is mentioned over here. Let's go ahead and read the few lines. An expert group has sounded a timely warning on what environmentally destructive tourism will mean to national parks and wildlife sanctuaries and the objectives they are supposed to serve. Given the unique and rare wildlife that the country has been endowed with, the rationale for using the resources for attracting tourists from abroad is unassailable. This necessarily postulates that the flora and the fauna should be protected and conserved. Okay, that gives us a good amount of idea. It basically says that the flora and fauna of our country is very rich. That basically means that tourists or tourism will be very much attracted to come and visit our country to look at our flora and fauna, and that is something that will hurt our environment and hurt our flora and fauna. So that is basically what environmentally destructive tourism means when we put our revenue generation, basically the revenue that is generated from tourism, when it overshadows the conservation of wildlife. That is what environmentally destructive tourism means. So the preservation of the wild beasts, that is the complete opposite. So no. The destruction of wildlife and sanctuaries, very close, but again it's too broad. We need something that is right to the point, so we'll just mark that off for now. Destroying the attractive sources of wild animals and birds, yes, that is very, very close, so circle that. The maintenance of the flora and fauna of the country, again the opposite. So that means that C is the correct answer. Now you could obviously argue over here that B and C are very relatively close. Why didn't I just choose B? The thing is, while we're solving these passages, and if there is a question that you feel like that there are two correct options, we're gonna go for the one that is the most detailed one. Now these two options, they basically mean the same thing: destruction of the wildlife and sanctuaries, or destroying the attractive sources of wild animals and birds. They're very closely related, but option number C, destroying the attractive sources of wild animals and birds, it's much more detailed and it's much more to the point. So that is why we went with that option. Our last question is, to implement the most scientific ways of tourism, we should A, get industries and talented persons trained in the field, B, form a commission and plan out how to implement these suggestions, C, send a group of scientists abroad to learn more about tourism, or D, speed as much finance as possible to better the suggestions made. Okay, so now in question number 27th and 28th, we saw how the term that we were looking for in the passage was already given to us in the question. It was directly mentioned. So for example, in 27th we were given biotic disturbances, and in 28th we were given environmentally destructive tourism. All we had to do was find those terms in the passages and then read the lines that were before it and after it, and then we could easily answer the question. But in 29th, there is no direct term given to us. What should we do now? Well, we could do two things. We could go ahead and read the passage again in hopes that we find the answer, or we could choose the term from the question and then look for it in the passage. So for example, if I want, let's say if I chose the term scientific ways, let's choose that term. Now let's try to find the word scientific ways in the passage. Let's see here, scientific way. Let's now read the lines before it. Let's start reading from here. And now the expert group has come up with the suggestion that a case-by-case evaluation be done of the capacity as well as the limitations of all the national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, and based on such assessment, an area-specific plan for tourist promotion within the safety norms be charted. So, and then it says that this is the more scientific way of going about the job. Okay, so let's think about what we just read. Basically, it is telling us about a suggestion and how we can basically have a balance between tourism as well as conserving our wildlife. That is, we go ahead and we evaluate each and every wildlife sanctuary and park, and we see its capacity as well as its limitation to basically evaluate if tourism is safe in that area or not. So that is basically the scientific way of tourism. So let's read the options for question number 29. Get industries and talented persons trained in the field. There was no mention of industries in that area, so this is not relevant over here. B, form a commission and plan out how to implement these suggestions. Yes, that is what was told to us in the passage, that we need to go ahead and evaluate basically case by case of different wildlife sanctuaries and parks and see if they are fit for tourism or not. Let's just go ahead and read the other two options to make sure that we have chose the right one. C, send a group of scientists abroad to learn more about tourism. No, neither is it mentioned directly in the passage, nor is it gonna solve the issue, so no. And number D, speed as much finance as possible to better the suggestions made. Again, finance was not mentioned in the passage, and that is not gonna help much, so no. So that means that our correct option is B, form a commission and plan out how to implement the suggestions. Okay, so that was basically how I solve my CAT questions. I'm just gonna give you guys some final tips so that you know exactly what to do. Number one, you should always read the questions before reading the passage. That is something you should always do so that you have a clear idea of what we're going to be reading about, and so that you can be extra careful when those specific terms are being mentioned in the passage. Also, one more thing, for example, you read the questions before the passage and now you're reading the passage. If that term that was mentioned in the question comes up in the passage and you understood the answer, don't wait until you read the entire passage to go ahead and solve it. Solve the question as fast as you get the answer. Don't wait till the end. You're going to create more confusion, so just answer it immediately. Tip number 2. Find the keyword and locate it in the passage. So you might have to find the keyword in the question like we did in the last question, or it might be given to you in the question itself directly like we did in the first two questions. Your job is to locate it in the passage and then to read the lines that were before it and after it, and then go ahead and answer the question. Number 3. Read only what's necessary. That's why I told you guys to read the questions before you read the passage, so you know exactly what you're looking for and that you don't waste your time on unnecessary stuff. Like if you read the passage, you will know that it mentions how India has 41 national parks and 165 wildlife sanctuaries. Nowhere does it ask in the question how many wildlife sanctuaries or national parks does India have. So that is something that is completely necessary and you don't need to waste your time on it. So there is no point in reading that. So that is one more very important tip. Number 4. Eliminate the wrong answers. Like the way we solved the questions, we didn't jump into the to answer the question immediately. What we did was we were eliminating the answers one by one. We saw that option A was incorrect, then we saw that option B was incorrect, so we eliminated the answers one by one till we reached to one or two correct answers, and then we chose the best one from there. And number 5, always pick the best answer that was evident in the passage, like we did in question number 28, where we had two options. We were stuck between option B and C, but we chose the most detailed one and the one that was most correct to the passage. So that is pretty much all that's for the video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you implement these suggestions in your CAT preparation, and I wish you all the best. Make sure to join me for the next video, where I'll be sharing some more tips and tricks, and I'll be solving another passage with you guys, and the next video is gonna be even better. So that's all for this one, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.